Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Minnesota Rack Stars podcast. We have a good one here for you. We are welcoming back Jake Kitzmann from Camp Ripley. He is in charge of the hunts that take place in Camp Ripley. And today we're just kind of sitting down and talking with Jake, kind of wrapping up the 2024 season, kind of getting the final numbers out there and just kind of see how things went from his perspective. And then on top of that, we talk about what changes might be taking place for the upcoming season here in 2025. So I hope you guys enjoy the podcast, and let's get to it. Hey, before we get started here, if you haven't already heard, we have started up our own apparel store online. So if you're looking to get some sweet Minnesota Rack Star apparel, some swag, you can check it out. It's on our Facebook page. We have the link on there. Also on our website, you can go and check that out. We have anything from hats, mugs, sweatpants, sweatshirts, T-shirts, you name it. It's pretty sweet. So hope you guys check it out, and let's get going with the podcast. Hey, everyone. Welcome this week. We have one of my favorite guests back with me, and it's Jake Kitzmann from Camp Ripley. Jake actually doesn't live too far down the road from me, so it's kind of convenient we're able to get together here. But Jake, thanks for coming on over. Before we really get diving into Camp Ripley and all the numbers and all that good stuff, how did your hunting season go this last year?
Well, it was fairly uneventful for myself personally. I didn't end up shooting any deer myself. My daughter did get her first deer, though, and I was able to be in the stand with her.
Oh, cool.
So that was really exciting, getting out gun hunting on opening day there. Otherwise, did some western trips and didn't have any success. Chased some elk around a little bit, but we just couldn't get on them. They were, after a 5-mile hike up the mountain, they were another 5 miles still beyond, and we just couldn't get to them. So it was a slow fall for me, but still good. Got to take some trips, spend some time with my brother and a good friend of mine and family in the woods. So
Do you go on private property out west, or are you on public?
All public ground for us, yeah.
Nice. It's on my to-do list. It's on the bucket list, but for me, when work starts, school starts for myself, that's when elk hunting's going on. So one of these years, I'm just going to have to bite it and say I'm taking 5 personal days and I'm going out week 1 for elk.
The downfall of being a teacher for sure there. Your falls get busy.
Yeah, big time.
Around us, around my office, a lot of our vacation days are scheduled around the fronts that are moving through. Looking at the beginning of the week, it's always, well, I might be here on Thursday. We'll see how that front shapes up.
No, I thought it was really interesting. You told me, I don't know if you told me on air last year or off this past summer, that you do a lot of hunting with your pistol.
Yeah, handgun hunter. The last 5 years or so, I've really taken to handgun hunting a lot. I just see it as kind of the best crossroads of gun hunting and bow hunting. It's a little more challenging. I'm making sure you got a good rest and the right angle and everything like that, but you still get to play with the guns. I like to hand load and shoot a lot. So yeah, about the last 5 years here, I've really started to dive into that a lot more. I've always been a gun guy my whole life. And so I've just been taking that on, and actually here coming up in July, I'm going to South Africa for 2 weeks, handguns only. So that's going to be the Mount Everest for me. I'm really excited for it.
So what are you going after over there?
There's a whole wide range of plains game. I'm just doing a cull hunt, no trophies or anything like that coming back, and I'm toting a 460 Smith & Wesson Performance Center gun with me and a Super Red Hawk and 44 mag, and the wife's coming along and should
Cool.
be epic.
I was just telling you a little while ago here that I just bought a 9mm Sig Sauer, and I shot it for the first time a week or 2 ago, and I wanted to shoot with somebody who knew what they were doing so that I get my form right away, so I wouldn't start practicing bad habits and all that. And
Yep.
I was about 25 yards away. I should have started shooting at a 4x8 sheet of plywood instead of pie plates, but
Yeah.
I started shooting, and the first round I think I had 4 rounds in, and I ended up hitting 1 out of 4, and that was kind of pretty consistent, 1 out of 4. But the next time I go out, I'm going to have a larger sheet that I'm shooting at. That way I could see where I'm hitting. I think for me, the biggest thing for me, though, was just getting used to it, get good form, and then I'm going to go off of that. But the one thing I noticed right away, I mean, this is the first time me shooting a pistol, like I was getting frustrated, like, come on, hit the darn thing. But people have told me that you're going to be surprised how inaccurate you'll be for a while until you get the hang of things and get going. But do you have a scope on yours? Yours open sight, or what do you got there?
Well, for the most part, for hunting guns, I use optics, red dots, and regular scopes too. But I'd shoot a little bit with irons, but I'm frankly just not very good with them, and I don't practice with them enough. So I try not to take them out in the field chasing animals. But yeah, it's a lot of a grip and practice. Definitely, anytime you're handgun hunting, it's like bow hunting. You really got to put the time at the range and make sure you're consistent and make sure you're able to make ethical kills.
It's fun. Like I just told you before, I've already found a new addiction, and that's what it's going to be. It's going to be shooting that guy. Well, let's get rolling here with camp. What's going on in camp right now? Kind of let everyone know what's going on there.
Sure, we're ramping up for field season and for training season. So as folks know, Camp Ripley, we're a military training installation. So April, May, that's the big time a lot of times on the installation, and I'm sure you heard it just the other night, the artillery booming away out there. So, just training season is upon us, and then within my job, it's field season. We're getting ready to burn. We burn about 13,000 acres a year out on the installation for different purposes. So we're trying to ramp up more and more of that here, and then just field season. Our biologists are out doing a lot of survey work. And our big thing here coming up next month, our interns, our student workers will start, and they'll be chasing Blanding's turtles around, caging nests, and just a lot of different surveys, breeding bird surveys going on, frog and toad call surveys. For me, a lot of just reporting, meetings, trying to get out in the field as much as I can, and just whatever comes along. We're all generalists around there doing a lot of different things, wearing a lot of hats. So,
obviously, once the snow melts and all that good stuff, I mean, we haven't had a whole lot of snow here, but a lot of things are exposed and whatnot. Cruising around downrange, is there anything that you've ran into this spring so far where it's kind of eye-opening? Or, I mean, just like, oh, cool, there's a dead carcass of this or that or anything. It's always, to me, it's always fun going out and exploring and finding things. Is there anything that you found out there? Because there's a lot of stuff out there.
Yeah, nothing too crazy this year. I mean, occasionally we'll get some carcasses and whatnot that we run across. A couple of the guys on the fire crew have found some decent sheds out on the burns we've gotten done so far, but nothing too strange this year. Okay.
Getting into the hunt a little bit, how do you feel the hunt went last year?
Overall, I mean, I think it was a resounding success. The hunters, I mean, by and large, really followed the rules and showed up and participated and seemed like they had a good time, really positive experience. Got a lot of good feedback. There was a few negative things that came out of it, too, that we kind of expected. One of the big ones is that during those peak weekends, right around MEA weekend, we started hitting the max 150 hunters per day on the weekends. And we did have some hunters that showed up during that time frame that they had reserved rooms and they weren't able to get checked in because we filled up at like 12:02 a.m. And so there was some consternation around that, which I completely understand. That'd be frustrating. That's just the nature of the beast of the system right now. There's not much we could do about it, but really a lot of really good feedback from hunters that just really enjoyed having that extra time in the woods. It wasn't just a race to get out there and sit down somewhere. They had time to get out and scout. A lot of folks I even heard they're overwhelmed, didn't know where to go. Because there's just a lot of new ground to explore. But really by and large, I think it was a resounding success. And going forward, it's looking like this is going to be here to stay. So,
well, it's good to hear. I was able to get out there a few times, not as many times as I really wanted to. People who listen to our podcast and watch our YouTube videos know this, but I ended up suffering a little herniated disc last year in my back.
Wow.
And I hunted as much as I could. I got into camp as much as I could and had a really good time getting in there and hunting. But I told my wife before the season started, I said, just let you know, the girl's getting a little older. I'm going to get out and do a little more hunting. Well, I jinxed myself. And it was, my surgery was on October 23rd. So that laid me up for the rest of the year,
Peak
basically.
time frame even. That herniated disc will keep you from sitting in a deer stand, I have to imagine.
It was brutal. Even right now, like I can't feel my heel yet. It feels like I'm walking on socks that are falling down the whole time.
Jeez.
And, you have to keep shoes on quite a bit. But, it's it's better than what it was. Put it that way.
Yeah.
I know last year you were talking about one of the big reasons why you changed the format of the hunt was because of training and everything going on. They had to shut down training while you brought in the hunt. For those 2 separate weekends or 2-day hunts. How did camp respond to the style of the hunt this year? Were they pleased with the way things went, and was it easier for them to move around, do everything they needed to do?
Yeah, I think so. There was units downrange. I'm sure the hunters that came out this last year saw some soldiers out training and whatnot. I know the ranges were still going hot all throughout the season. So, security had positive things to say about it. There wasn't those big surges of people. We had a couple small enforcement issues there that popped up, just more learning curve stuff than anything. But by and large, security was really happy with it. Range control adapted really, really well. And they were able to get a good functioning system to get the people through. So, from the training community to the local operations folks, there was a lot of really positive feedback, some lessons learned that we need to work on a little bit going forward here, and we're planning for that. But, no impacts.
That's one thing I wanted to compliment you guys on. I thought range control was extremely helpful. And very welcoming, when we were in there signing in. And, that when I was speaking with one of them, and I told him, I had a herniated disc at the time, but I was still going in. And he's like, well, man, if you need any help with anything, just give us a shout. And
Sure.
They were very, very helpful in that regard and making us feel welcome, not, giving us a evil eye when we walk in, like, what are you guys doing here? But I thought they were very helpful, very welcoming, and I thought it was a really good setup the way it was. It was quick, easy, in and out. You get going. I know that's one thing where people had a lot of concerns going into it last year that I were talking to, like, well, where do you go? What do you do?
Yep.
And it's like,
Yep.
It's easy. You just go follow the road all the way in. You get to range control before you go through the gates. And you sign the papers, you grab your sheet, and your time stamp, all that stuff. You get out, you come back in, sign out, and you're out. And then you got to do your online stuff as well. But I thought they did a great job with range control, helping people out. Even when there were some issues online, range control was able to help us out a little bit with that too.
Yeah, definitely. They did a bang-up job. I can't say enough good about how they handled all that down there. I know if it were me, I'd be a little grumpy with everybody showing up at my office door right when I get in there.
Exactly, right.
They handled it really, really well, and it just kept the flow of traffic going. I think we're gonna ease some traffic flow concerns there. At the check-in, there was those peak weekends that got a little busy. So I think they're going to try and open up a second sign-in station in there so it just gets people through a little more efficiently.
Well, year one, you're always going to have those issues, and you saw it here, and now all of a sudden it's time to make some of those adjustments. But you've named a couple of them, but what were some of the biggest issues that you guys really ran into?
Really that camping one, or reserving spots, was
Sure.
the big rub for a lot of folks. And we anticipated that. And as I've mentioned again and again, that's just the nature of the beast out there with the military training that's going on. We got to allow maximum flexibility for the soldiers that are out there training. So I just don't see that we're going to be able to, let hunters reserve in advance, just the way our range control and the way we operate our ranges is set up. It's military training installation first, and that's got to be the priority. Mm-hmm. So I know those hiccups are going to come, and I just apologize in advance if you're one of those hunters that gets stuck with a room reservation or camping reservations and then you can't get in. I'll just tell you to keep looking on the site and try and get in during those times, but that's just a downfall that's going to keep being there. Otherwise, really kind of one of the biggest things, we saw some speeding issues, nothing too bad, but if hunters, while they're down there, just make sure you're keeping your speed in check. Range control is out there actively patrolling, and there will be again this year, especially during hunting season. Just make sure you're keeping your speed in check. That was probably the biggest thing that I saw for notes in the system. Anytime there's an interaction between hunters or security, or between hunters with security or range control or any of the staff, we put a note into the account just saying what that interaction was. And so that was the biggest thing I saw by far. There was some parking stuff that popped up for hunters that are coming out there, aren't used to, really having to get out of the way on some things. They might park on a little 2-track trail thinking that, they're going to be the only one going in there. Just got to remember that the military uses those 2-track trails, so you got to be getting off to the side and allowing space for people to pass. That was one that popped up a number of times. But the nice thing with iSportsman on that is that all those vehicle passes the hunters had to come get, if you were parked in a weird spot and they needed to get around, it was a quick call to range control. They'd send a message or a phone call out to that hunter, and usually that got remedied really fast. So just one of the great things with iSportsman, there's a lot of nice features with it, and that's one of them, being able to contact the hunters real time and work with them. But for the most part, I mean, that was really the biggest stuff. It was minor, really minor.
I just about crapped my pants in there because I was in the stand, and all of a sudden my phone vibrates, and I get a message saying, you need to get out of unit whatever. We're going to be, I don't remember what it was, what you guys were going to be doing, but you need to get out of here, or out of there. And it gave me a different unit. I wasn't in that particular unit, and I thought the text was sent to me directly.
Oh.
So I responded saying, I'm not in that unit. And all of a sudden I started thinking, and I was talking to somebody else that was in there, like, yeah, I got that too one time. So it's just a mass text that goes out to everybody, right?
And well, that might be a learning curve for them too. So it should have only gone to the people in that area, is the way you can make it. But they may have had the whole roster pulled up and sent it to everybody by mistake. I tell people a lot, when you've got your filters set up in there, you can really screw with things if you don't change your filters to exactly what you want, or filter a list down to the bare minimum of what you want.
Sure.
I've done that stuff too, and learning curve for us as well. We're trying to learn as administrators out there. So there's a lot of capabilities with this system, and we were learning our way around. Anytime on those weird weekends where people could mysteriously not check in at midnight. Yeah, that was me. Or one of our range control folks, we forgot to click a box. There's a lot of little boxes in the background that make the system run, and it was user administrator error, a lot of that stuff, and we're learning. So, but I think for the most part we worked it out. And that messaging piece, you got to be careful on how you do that, because you can get those blanket messages.
I was like, oh gosh, I'm gonna get in trouble. What did I do? I'm not in here. But yeah, there was one point. It was pretty cool. I was in the stand, and all of a sudden, choppers were coming in and out, and it was probably that mid-October, and all of a sudden they're coming right over the top of me, basically, and leaves were just blowing down on top of me from so much force with those choppers. So I thought that was pretty sweet. You're talking about the speeding, right? Talk to me a little bit about. So obviously, there's a time frame you need to be out of there, right? And I don't remember exactly what that time was, if it was 8 o'clock or whatever. I don't know. But what happens all of a sudden? Somebody gets hung up or something happens, and they're not able to get out of there before that time frame. What should they do in that situation?
Yep, just call range control. As you mentioned, those folks are really easy to work with. And if you have that situation where you got stuck, you tracked a deer too long, you had some issue pop up where you just can't get back, just call range control. We did have that pop up a couple times this last year where I had a message the next day from range control saying, hey, I talked to this hunter. They were a little bit late getting through, but they had a legit reason for it. They just couldn't help it. Don't restrict them. And so I just went in and pulled the admin hold off of their account, and they were able to check in the next day. So definitely just that clear communication with range control all the time is a lot of just the ways to mitigate if you're having issues out there and you just can't get back for whatever reason.
That's one thing too, like being a teacher, you don't want to accept late work all the time, otherwise you're going to get late work every single day.
Right.
So that's one thing where you kind of want to hold the hunters to a standard too, I would assume.
Yep, definitely. And I mean, there's going to be those times where if you stick one late and you can't get to it, they're just going to tell you, yep, just come on back. Mm-hmm. We'll let you in tomorrow morning. Not every situation they're going to let you stay out there, but it's always up to range control on that stuff. They're the ones that control the range activity, and they'll have the best idea.
So this popped into my head last year because I know an individual that shot a deer, and he was in there all by himself, and it was a good sized deer, a pretty heavy deer, and I said, "What are you going to do?" I'm like, I'm in Piers right now, trick-or-treating with my girls. I said I could maybe swing up there quick and head up there and help you, because by the time you get to where I'm at, it's going to be too late, and he could be able to get out. Yeah. And he horsed that thing in the back of his truck by himself and was able to get out. I told him he's going to end up like me and having back surgery one of these days. But I was thinking, and maybe this is for us as hunters, for somebody to step up in this situation, but would there be a possible line of communication between the hunters that are out there where all of a sudden, say, hey, you just throw out a message to the guys that are in camp who are just hunting, saying, hey, I'm in whatever, Unit 49. I just shot a deer. If anyone's around and willing to help, I'd appreciate it. And if nobody wants to, whatever, that's fine. Or, hey, I'm in Unit 49. I just fell out of my stand. Is somebody around me that can come help? Would that even be a possibility in some way, shape, or form? Or like I said, is that something where we as hunters could develop a Facebook page for people who are in camp or something? I don't know. I'm just throwing random ideas out there.
Yeah, I mean, those emergency situations for sure. Any way you can communicate back and get information out there is the way to go. I mean, contacting range control all the time. If you're in an emergency, you got to go to range control, and then that's the emergency contact number. As far as just helping out hauling a deer or something like that, that's going to be really case by case. Yeah. You might get somebody out there that's willing and able. But even our range staff, they're pretty overtopped a lot of times. There's only so many of them to do so much job. So that's going to be super situational. But like you said, they may be able to send out a message to other hunters and just say, hey, if you can give me a hand, that'd be great. But in those situations, we'd prefer not to use the system that way, more of an emergency contact thing.
No doubt. Yeah, I was thinking maybe a guy could, I don't know if it's Facebook or whatever, Camp Ripley hunters or whatever, and you can kind of message people through that. But I'd be willing to help somebody out. All of a sudden, I'm getting out of the stand. Somebody says, hey, I shot a deer in this area. And if it's on my way out, if I see their truck, I could help out or something. But, yeah, I was just, when that happened to that individual, I was just like, how in the heck are you going to get that thing in the back of your truck? And all of a sudden, he sends me a video. He goes, I got it. Yeah. But so let's look at some of the numbers here on what the harvest numbers looked like this last fall.
Yeah, so for the public hunters, or really the archery hunters generally, there was about 1,500 permits sold. And out of that, it was kind of a weird year all the way around in central Minnesota. And really, from what I understand, for most of the state, the harvest was really skewed toward bucks. It always is a bit, but this year was pretty extreme. And we definitely saw that out at Ripley for the archery hunt for the 170 or so deer that got shot. It was about 58% of those were antlered males out there this year, and that was really, really high, looking from years past, and only about 33% were adult females. So really skewed toward bucks this year. Normally it's not that big of a difference, but didn't shoot hardly any fawns this year. So that was interesting to see. There's normally a good number of fawn. There was about 8% of the deer that came in were fawns. And that probably speaks to what I heard from hunters throughout the season a lot was they were sitting and waiting for bucks, and they were hunting antlers a lot of times. I talked to a whole bunch of people throughout the season that they all said the same thing. Yeah, I'm seeing some deer, but I'm just waiting, just biding my time. So overall, percent success rate, it was pretty average, about 12% or so. And that was on the high side. If you look back to the way the public archery hunt went for about 40 years there, the long-term average was right around 9% success. So it's hard to make apples-to-apples comparisons there, but that falls pretty in line with archery hunting outside the installation. I think the statewide average is something like 20% or a little less than 20% for archery hunting, success-wise. So we're a little bit low. But no surprises there, and down on permits. And so overall on the installation between all the hunts, from muzzle loaders for the soldiers, the disabled vets hunt, the youth hunt, we harvested around 200 deer. I believe the total count was 202 deer, 204 deer off the installation total. And so, yeah, and for the most part, it was skewed towards males by quite a bit. The muzzleloader hunt wasn't near as much. People were shooting the females. There was more females shot than males during the muzzleloader hunt this year. which was a little bit surprising because that one usually does more antlered harvest, I'd say, than antlerless. But it's late in the year. People were just putting some meat in the freezer too. So, but overall, yeah, pretty successful year. Pretty average year, I'd say, overall, with a whole different twist on it.
Yeah, no doubt. What did you say the total archery harvest was? How many was that?
166 deer for archery.
166. And then what was usually the ballpark for the two-day hunts?
So you'd be looking higher than that, usually around 200 or so for the two-day hunts.
Each hunt?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, total between them.
Oh, okay. Sure. So in your mind, based off those numbers, I don't know. Well, let's get to that at the end with the adjustments you're looking at. But were those numbers numbers you anticipated?
Yeah, completely.
Okay.
We anticipated it to be, lower participation and a little bit lower success rate, just because of everything we heard from other installations. The first times they adopted this new system, they all saw their permit numbers drop off. They all saw their harvest rates drop off a little bit. So there's no surprise. And, a lot of hunters were trophy hunting. So you're going to see that lower success rate when you're trophy hunting. There's just not a bunch of 160s running around the woods, right?
Yeah, exactly. So obviously, I'll let you. Based on those numbers, are you going to look at possibly implementing something to get hunters to focus on some more does? Are you okay with that based on the deer numbers? What's your thoughts?
Well, for now, we're making no changes.
Okay.
We sat down together and talked through this. I guess it would be in January or so. And we've got a sample size of 1 at this point.
Exactly.
So our path forward is to wait and see what the coming couple years here look like, and try and get some more survey work done and that sort of stuff, and just get a good handle on what's actually happening for our harvest rate with this new system. Because who knows, this year, we could get 3,000 permits sold for all I know. Right. And if you want to do that, please come on out to Ripley. It's a great experience out there. Come on out and hunt. But yeah, with a data set to 1, we're not going to make any changes for this year at all, and just do status quo. Sounds like more than likely this year is going to be a 2-deer harvest limit, just the same. All the DPA 248 is going to be that way, unless something really changes from the recommendations going up to the upper echelons of DNR and whatnot. But should be a 2-deer limit with bonus tags again from what I'm hearing. So, yeah, I don't think any changes.
I think you talked about this on the last podcast, but how do you guys survey the deer numbers out there?
Well, it kind of has varied over the years. Well, it's just gone back and forth over the years. We've tied in with DNR's aerial surveys that they've done, and then just used the population modeling that DNR has used. We've done a little bit more survey on the installation over the years, but it's been a good number of years since we've done anything more intensive than what the DNR has used. So we're basing it all off of DNR's modeling at this point. And actually, DNR wasn't able to get the modeling out this year. They had some staff shortages in that position. But given the gorgeous winter we had overall, you can pretty much bet your paycheck on what the deer population is going to be doing around here.
That's the thing, going out and doing some shed hunting, we haven't really found the winter kill that we found in previous years. So, in all honesty, it should be a pretty good year for deer numbers in the deer herd.
Yep.
How about, do you guys, when a hunter registers their kill, do they have to select what weapon they killed it with, if it was a compound bow or a crossbow or anything?
We don't do that. That's something, it's just, you can either select in our system either archery or firearm, and of course we're just archery. So there's no way for us to track that. That's DNR's big numbers. I know they pull the data on crossbows versus vertical bows, but we don't have that installation specific. I will say I was surprised at the number of crossbows that were out there. I just did, in the year or two that they had implemented the crossbows, when we were still having our normal soldiers hunts and whatnot, and I'd kind of bring those people together, I'd just kind of ask the group when they were signing in, and it was a lot of hands that went up for crossbow hunters. So
sure.
I was surprised to see that, and even surprised to see the numbers that the DNR had put out a while back on that. But we don't have that specific for the installation.
I know there's been a few people that have asked me, you can use crossbows in there? I said, yeah, you go by the same rules and regs as the state as far as that goes.
That's something I should allude to. There was a little bit of confusion I saw out of folks. We, throughout when rifle season and muzzleloader season are open, whatever gun season is open, we still do require blaze orange on the installation. So there's a little bit of confusion out there. There's an unofficial Facebook page for the archery hunting, and I was keeping an eye on that a little bit, and there's some confusion out there. So just know, if you're listening in on this today, when the gun hunt, when any rifle season's going on or muzzleloader season, you got to be wearing your blaze orange on the installation too.
What happens when somebody's going out to their stand and there's somebody in it already?
Well, you're out of luck. If you left your gear in the woods, you shouldn't have, because we say right in there, don't leave your gear in the woods, partly because you don't know if you're going to get in there the next day. If you left your stand in the woods and somebody showed up there, well, too bad. You had a public stand out there.
Which blows my mind. It wasn't myself. I tear my stuff down every single time. But it blows my mind for having a maximum of 150 people in there and that big of a property that somebody would find somebody else's stand.
It's amazing. Yeah, you stumble across it from time to time, even from the public hunts back in the day. I mean, occasionally you'd see a stand left up, and it happened. But, no leaving your gear in the woods, even trail cameras, none of that stuff. Don't leave anything in the woods. And flagging, I should bring that up, trail flagging. That's litter. Don't leave it out there. If you want to use it for the day, take it down when you're there. Those little clip-on trail flags, those reflective trail flags, I recommend those to people because we took down a lot of flagging out in the woods this year. And so please do not use that stuff. If you're going to use it, put it out for the day and take it down when you're done. Otherwise, use your phone and track your routes. But yeah, there's just too much of that stuff that we saw out there. I saw some people using like construction tape for flagging and some weird stuff went on. So yeah, that's litter to us. If you leave it in the woods, it's litter. So please, if you pack it in, pack it out.
As far as trail cameras go, how many trail cameras did you guys find?
There was a few.
I figured that.
So if you are one of those people that left your trail camera in the woods, it may be down at range control. I don't think they have any currently. But yeah, there was people that showed up and said, hey, I lost my trail camera or whatever, and they got it back. So, I mean, we're not going to keep it from you forever, but if we find that stuff, we will take it. It's going to come back to range control. And we have people in the woods. That's the other thing. It's amazing what soldiers find out there, and we've got a whole literal army of people in the woods, and they find stuff. And when they find stuff that's out of the ordinary, it comes back to the range house. So don't leave your gear in the woods. It will get found, and it will come back to range control. And if you don't claim it, then it becomes state property.
I was listening to people. You know, everybody always has their own story on things and reasoning why, and that's why I like having you on this podcast is because you can kind of clear things up for us. But I was talking to people, and they're like, well, they're shutting down this area, this unit, and they're not even in there doing anything. I think they're shutting it down because they want to save that unit for themselves to hunt when they're able to get out there. Is that true?
No, it's definitely not true. I know there's some weird closures that happen out there, and it's just based on future uses. Otherwise, there's these surface danger zones that go out from all the ranges, and some of them can be really, really big. So they might close off really huge areas for a range, but from everything I saw, I kept an eye on this. I'm not the one who's actively opening and closing training areas. I watch what's going on out there. It's range control that does all that. But I can assure you that from everything I saw, that was not happening. Yeah. I just don't think that's the case. There's plenty of areas for people to hunt. So I didn't see any of it. If I do see any of it, I'd make an issue out of it. But I didn't personally see it. So
there was a couple times where I was driving through a unit that was open, okay, and all of a sudden I'm gonna leave that unit, and the gate's closed.
Okay.
And then I started getting nervous. I'm like, okay, I shouldn't have been in here. It shows that it's open on the map, but one of the gates was open, one of them was closed, and I went through the open one, and then all of a sudden I get to the gate that's closed.
Yep, you can get some weird situations like that where you might be caught in the lag time, and that's probably what happened to you from when they go out and do barrier runs every day. And so they're kind of planning for the next day where they'll close some stuff, and it might just be a lag time where they got the gates closed, but they haven't updated iSportsman yet, so there might be a little lag there. If you do find yourself in that situation, if you find yourself on the back side of a gate, that being you can't see a sign with a number on it, if you're looking at the back side of the gate, just stop where you're at and call range control. That's the best thing you can do. 616-3137, call range control, because odds are nothing bad can happen in that situation, but there are times where if you find yourself on the back side of a gate, something has changed, or they may have missed a gate. And if you drive back the way you just came through, you could be putting yourself in a dangerous situation. You're probably not. But if you find yourself in one of those situations, call down to range control immediately. Just stay where you're at. And you're probably fine. It may have just been a mistake. They may have forgot to close the gate on one side, or they got out in front of you and closed a gate while hunters were still in there. Mm-hmm. That stuff happens sometimes, but we try not to. So
I'm going to go with what you said next time. What I did, I was like, I'm not going back that way because Jake told me not to be in there. So I think we just popped the gate open, got out, and shut it right away behind us. So that's what I did.
And if it wasn't locked,
it
there's a chance that sometimes the gates just fall down too in the wind.
Sure.
So if the gate's down but not locked, you're probably safe to get through it. But the best scenario is to call range control right away. Just tell them where you're at and say, hey, I drove down this road to this spot, and now I'm behind a gate. Tell me what to do, and they'll help you out.
How about blow down trees? Because I've heard some people run into some issues with some blowdowns. All of a sudden they're on the road, and all of a sudden they're either trapped or there's a blowdown there.
Yeah, if you're trapped and you can't get through somewhere, call range control. We'll get up to you to help you clear that tree out of there. Otherwise, if you come to a blowdown, just back out the way you came through. But if you get into a situation where you're trapped, call range control. We'll get people up there. They do our roads crew, they do a pretty darn good job at keeping those trails open and everything, but occasionally we had it was a couple years ago that year it was just blow down all over the place constantly. So if we get a real windy spring here coming up, it could happen, or if the fall's real windy. But yeah, if you drove in a certain way and you can't get back out the way you came in, and because of a tree, just call range. We'll get somebody up there with a saw, and we can help you out.
Was there any medicals this last year?
We did have, we had one that I know of. Somebody stuck an arrow into their leg when they were dragging a deer or walking out. I can't remember the exact story, but that was one. And really, that was the only one I personally heard about. But I don't always get that information. That's security, and our ambulance crews would have a little bit more of that information. But that was the only medical issue I heard about.
Okay, well, that's good. That's good to hear.
Yeah.
I mean, just people going in and out all the time out in the woods. You just never know what's going to happen. And,
right.
Yeah. Anyone get lost?
Nope. Okay. Nobody got lost. I mean, we had a couple people that were a little bit late getting back early on, especially. Yep. When the time frames don't work out the best for the range control open hours there. We had some people getting back late a little bit. So there was some of that. But overall, anymore with cell phones, people generally know where they're at.
Has that happened before, like before technology, maybe when you first started taking over here?
Yeah, definitely. And, I mean, I've had some weird stuff, too, pop up over the years where I had this was during one of our soldiers' hunts, I think, and this was probably 8-10 years ago. But the guy called me at the check station, and it's like, hey, I don't know where I am, or I'm lost. Here's my grid coordinate, but I can't find my way back. And I went, wait a second. You have your grid location, but you don't know where you're at. Like, how does that work? So I don't know. Sometimes people just get turned around. They're unsure of themselves out there, I guess, too. But really, nobody got lost that I know of this year. No big issues there.
I know I got lost one time. I don't know if I shared this with you, but it was probably 15, 20 years ago. And my buddy and I went out and we were going to do some calling. And all of a sudden I, hit the horns together a little bit, hit the grunt call, and all of a sudden there was an immediate grunt back and leaves being ruffled around and branches breaking. I'm like, holy Lord. And my heart just starts pounding. I look at my buddy, and our eyes are just, as wide as can be. And we sat there, and we heard leaves crunching, and all of a sudden another grunt, and leaves were like crunching, getting closer, and I'm pulling back my bow just about ready to go. And all of a sudden I look around this, brush, and there's another hunter looking right at me. We're calling to each other. So then we started walking off, and then all of a sudden we heard a whistle at us. So then we started walking a different direction. And I asked my buddy, I said, you know where we're at? He goes, no. And I said, I don't either. I said, I think we got to go this way. So we start walking the other direction. Another hunter. I'm like, this isn't good. So I called up my brother, and I said, hey, you got to help us. I said, we're lost. Well, he called me a few choice words, right? I said, go back to the truck. And I said, yell as loud as you can. Well, I heard him on the phone yell, and I couldn't hear him at all. So I said, go back to the truck and lay on the horn.
Yep.
And he gets back to the truck, and he goes, you have the keys, and it's locked. So,
oh, no.
So I said, you're going to have to yell as loud as you can. And, I'm in panic mode because I have no clue where I am, because I think at one point we said, let's get to the top of this ridge and we'll be able to see. Yeah. That ain't happening.
Just another ridge.
Yep, just another ridge.
Yeah.
So anyways, what ended up happening was him and my other brother, I think, yelled as loud as they could. And both my buddy and I pointed the opposite directions at the same time. They're like, that way. And I'm like, oh, my gosh. I'm like, you got to yell again. He's just cussing me out on the phone. So eventually we heard him. And I kid you not, we were probably 60 yards from the road.
Oh,
and
sure.
we were just in panic mode.
Yeah.
I mean, you just, like I said, you try to get to the top and see something. You're not going to see anything. I mean, it was just straight panic mode. We were panicking, and all heck broke loose because you saw a hunter, and then you feel bad when you run into another hunter. And that's what I like about this format so much better. It's so less stressful on a guy going out there with this model. But so I know, I don't know if it was you or if it was speaking with Todd Froberg from Minnesota DNR. Mm-hmm. He mentioned that, I think it was him that mentioned when something goes into place, kind of like you guys just said, you just did this for the first go around. You're going to leave this as is for next year and not do too many changes. After year two, I mean, are you guys open for changes? What's kind of your ultimate goal in the end, being that you're going to go with this model, opening things up? Have you guys talked about some other goals that you're going to try to be shooting for if everything goes as well and camp is happy with the way things are being ran?
Yeah, I mean, we're going to base a lot of it just off of what we're seeing for what hunters are doing, the participation rate we're getting. And then we just start talking population management from there. I mean, that's the only reason we have a hunt on the installation. We're the state's largest game refuge, so it's population management first and foremost for hunting purposes out there. And if we get to a scenario where we really feel we need to start shooting more deer because we're seeing overbrowse or something like that, or disease issues that pop up, something along those lines, then we'll address that. And we've had some internal conversations about, expanding out to if we need to do even a firearms hunt just for does or something like that, just to control populations. There's always those conversations that go on every year, and we're just going to keep an eye on it. Like I say, the goal for us is to get some more survey work in there so we get a really tight handle on the population, or the best we can. And of course, there's a lot of moving parts on getting that done, but we're just going to have to play it by year. But for now, years 2 and 3, I think there's probably just not going to be a lot for changes unless something really drastic happens. But we're seeing pretty decent participation out there, and an okay harvest, I'd say, at least a harvest rate that's going to allow the population to grow at this point, especially with these mild winters keep up.
You bet.
So, yeah, just playing it by year.
I know some other states do this, and I might have asked you previously about this, but is there ever thought of asking a hunter satisfaction survey or anything, throwing that out there?
Well, we've talked about that a little bit. Those things can be a little bit hard to do and hard to get, answers out of. I don't know a lot about the social science stuff, but everything I've talked to folks that run those big surveys, they say it can be kind of complicated to really get good data out of them. So we'll see what comes from that. We base a lot of our stuff off of, there's the survey link on the bottom side of the website there, the ICE survey link and QR code there. I can assure you that if you put a comment in there, we are going to see it. We will talk about it. It gets brought up. Every last one of those gets brought up. So, I mean, the camping issues that we had heard about, that's where we heard about those issues from, was through that survey link. We got a lot of positive feedback from that too. So if you have stuff that you really want us to see, that survey link on the bottom of the iSportsman page there, it will get brought up to the post commander himself. We sit and talk about those in the operations meetings. Everyone knows when we get those comments. So we do take those seriously. If there's concerns you have, especially safety stuff, if you see anything like that, it will get addressed if it's brought up there, if we can do anything about it. Like I say, that camping issue came up. That's just one of those things, or the camping/reservation issue. That's just one of those things we can't really address. There's no way to do anything about it. But, yeah, as far as formal surveys, though, we don't really have any plans on the near-term horizon anyway. But it's never out of the question either. We sit down and we talk about this stuff every year, multiple times a year, and probably even more so now with the iSportsman system. As I mentioned, I think the last time we talked, one of the good things with that, the permit fees that you hunters are providing to this, they stay on the installation. There's a really specific set of things for conservation-related purposes that those permit fees can be used for. And paying for the site is one of them, but for other things too, including survey work or even habitat stuff. Yeah, it's a really specific set of things that money can be used for. So, yeah, we're trying to do what's good for the public out there, and keep them safe, and yeah, keep them hunting, because we want to control the population and give people a good recreational opportunity out there.
And just a little advice for everyone. Make sure you scroll down and read everything on the iSportsman's site, because I feel bad because I texted you. I said, hey, how come camp isn't open? Then you sent me a screenshot of what it said, like you were going to be closed these dates. I'm like, oh, I'm an idiot. But, yeah, make sure you read. There's a lot of information there that you got to go through.
Yeah, especially if you're looking at it on your phone. I know the first things that pop up. I got this last year. That was a learning curve for me. I got too used to looking at it on my computer at work. And then the first time I pulled it up on my phone, I went, oh, this is kind of different from what I'm used to seeing. So, yeah, definitely make sure you're scrolling down past all those tabs on your phone. Anytime there's going to be news for you or closures or the Blaze Orange stuff that popped up, I put that in big red bold letters right underneath all the tabs on there. So anytime there's changes or closures or those schedules, it's going to be big bold red letters highlighted on there so you can see those first. And there's a lot of information on that first page. I was getting still a lot of questions about who do I contact for camping or housing arrangements. That's all on there. Just keep scrolling down. There's a whole section dedicated to camping and lodging on there. So, yeah, a lot of information.
When people pay for camping, does that money stay with you guys as well?
It stays locally, but it doesn't go toward conservation. That's a separate fee. So in our world, from an environmental standpoint, everything we do is driven by the Sykes Act. And so that mandates that we do certain things with Sykes Act permit fees, which is the hunting fees. And the camping money goes to a different fund. So that's a morale, welfare, and recreation fund that can be used for different things too. So stays on the installation, but different uses.
Did we have any hunters that showed up from out of state this year? Do you know?
We did. I believe it was 8 different states, 7 or 8 different states. All of them were west, which was strange to me. The furthest east we got was Wisconsin. But otherwise, from Alaska to Arkansas, all western states, I believe it was 7 or 8 different states. So, yeah.
So people out west are heading east to come here and hunt here, and we're heading west to go hunt theirs.
I would have never guessed. I thought there'd be a lot more East Coasters, but literally Wisconsin was the furthest east state we had.
Well, my brother lives out in Massachusetts, and he wants to bring his boy here. My brother's had, I mean, he loves Camp Ripley. He shot a really nice buck out there. I think it was maybe 2004 or something. And his boy's at that age where he can start hunting now. And there's a question I want to ask you about that, because he had a question for me, and I I shouldn't even be asking this right now on air, but there's some form of license where you don't need a specific permit to hunt out of state. There's like a one-time, or you get two hunts out of state where you don't need to abide by their rules as far as permits go or something. I'll have to look into that.
Yeah, I don't know that one.
But yeah, he was kind of curious about that. Well, I'll send him a message, then I'll text you. But so yeah, we might get a Massachusetts boy coming this way this next year.
East. Yeah, that'd be good.
Interesting. As far as I'm concerned, I want to thank camp for allowing you guys to be able to make this adjustment and try it out. I thought overall, in my standpoint as a hunter, it was awesome. It was relaxing going out there and hunting, and it was weird. Also, you see one vehicle, it's like, why is there a vehicle over by me? But compared to constant vehicles driving around all the time, it was fun. You got to see deer in their natural habitat, natural movement. As far as the rut goes, you get to see rut action, all that stuff. And not just deer sprinting past you with their tongue hanging out the whole time, being pushed around the woods. So that was awesome to go in there and experience that. You're giving people more of an opportunity who don't own land to get into a big piece of property where there's a good amount of animals to go after. But from a hunter standpoint, I thought it was awesome. I didn't do that survey, probably because I didn't scroll down all the way. I got to do a better job of going on my computer and look at it. Like I said, I thought it was a little tough for me on my phone, trying to navigate through the site. But that's a great point. If you go on your computer, you're probably going to see things a little more clear. But I definitely will go on and take that survey. But, I mean...
And it's not really a survey. It's more just of if you have... concerns or questions or any of that sort of stuff. It's just more of they call it an ICE survey, but it's not truly a survey. It's just a place for you to submit stuff to, comments to. So.
All right. But yeah, I mean, I thought you guys did a phenomenal job. Like I said, range control. I mean, those were the guys that were there every day that had to deal with us going in and out. So hats off to those guys for doing a tremendous job. As far as your standpoint, your perspective, anything you want to leave us with from last year?
No, I appreciate all the hunters showing up and bearing with us as we had these hiccups and internal struggles trying to figure out the system. There was definitely a learning curve behind it. But overall, I think the hunters really adapted great. We had a lot of good feedback, some bad feedback too. But again, we take all those comments to heart, and we really want to make it a good experience for folks coming out there. So overall, I mean, we appreciate everybody following the rules. Like I say, for the most part, hunters did really great at doing that, just addressing those little things, the speeding, the flagging out in the woods, if we can just clean that up a little bit better. And even in the camping area, hunters did a great job of cleaning up after themselves. We really appreciate that. If you want to keep this stuff going and make it good for you long term, the easier you can make it for the installation staff, I can assure you, the more likely it'll be that this is going to keep going the way it is and keep trying to streamline for the hunters. We really are trying to provide a quality experience for folks, and we appreciate that hunters followed the rules for the most part and didn't really, even if they had some issues, they weren't being aggressive to our range staff at all. We had a couple little issues with that, but be respectful, be professional, and just enjoy yourselves out there. I'm a guy, I like to be out in the woods, and I like it to be quiet, and camp's a beautiful place. You get up in that north central part of the installation, and there's just a lot of beautiful country out there. So just encourage hunters to come out, bring your friends, and if you have issues, concerns, or comments for the program, there is that ICE survey there. We appreciate all that feedback. So just thanks again for the hunters that showed up. It was a good season. Saw some great pictures of some great bucks. So it was a really good year and an interesting change for me. I've never had to deal with something like this. So there was a lot that went into it. So it was good to see it function well. Just thanks again.
Last question. Was it less of a headache for you this year from your standpoint versus the previous years? Maybe it's a longer time frame now.
No, not at all. Not for this last year anyway.
Sure.
This coming year, it definitely will be. Last year was the learning year, so I anticipated it was going to be a lot, and it was.
Sure.
But so far this year, it's been smooth sailing.
Good deal.
Our permits will be going on sale second week of July. Whenever the DNR starts putting the deer licenses on sale, I'm going to try and mirror it up with that. But this year, there won't be any accounts set up. If you have active accounts that are already there, you're only going to have to rewatch your safety video, and then your account will just reauthorize, and you won't have to send anything in. So I'm anticipating the workload for this year for me is going to be much less. Last year, getting to opener was a lot. But once opener started, the problems went away, and it was really smooth, minus the couple times when people couldn't check in at midnight, and that was my fault largely. So, yeah, I'm really anticipating this year is going to be a lot less. And for all the rest of, well, for most of the rest of Camp Ripley staff, security, fire department, our roads and grounds crew, it was certainly a lot less. There was much less logistics with the state patrol having to show up and all that stuff. DNR didn't have near as much for logistics to deal with. So, again, we see it as just a resounding success.
And I know, too, with, like you said, with permits, last year, would you say 1,400, 1,500 permits that were sold?
Yeah.
Well, more likely, majority of those people, they'll be coming back or they won't be coming back, but they'll already have their permit, or not their permit, but their account made, so you don't have to go in and accept that.
Right.
So that's all taken care of, but you're going to have a few more that'll come this year that didn't show up last year, but that number is going to be a lot less for you. And what I thought you did a great job of was, I know you said you have to allow how many hours for turnaround time on that?
About 72 hours.
But you were really good with that. I mean, there were people that were making accounts, and all of a sudden, boom, you turned around, you did a great job. Yep.
Yeah, tried to keep on that as much as possible. And if you've just been recently setting up accounts, if there's anybody listening that was setting up accounts over the summer, I'll apologize. I guarantee I didn't hit that 72-hour window because I don't get notifications on when people set up those accounts, so I have to be actively watching for them. So as we're ramping up to the season here again, we'll be watching, and we'll try and hit those time frames. But if you're one of those folks that was a little bit long on that time frame over the summer, my apologies. But all accounts should be active now at this point. I've had some starting to trickle in here this spring again, so people are starting to think about hunting some more.
Cool.
So,
well, that's good. Good.
There's some of that, and that's just to account for weekends, really. That 72-hour time frame, because we all need a day off here and there. So.
No doubt. Well, I'll tell you what, man, I think you knocked it out of the park this year for the first time, and to be able to manage all this stuff, my hat's off to you. You did a great job, and I'd be willing to bet that there's a really high hunter satisfaction with the people that were in there hunting, whether they saw a deer or not, just the style that the hunt that's there. We appreciate that. You did a great job. So, with that, I hope you guys enjoyed the podcast. I hope you got something from this. Once again, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for joining me, Jake. I really do appreciate it. And until next time, have a great day. And there it is. Once again, special thanks goes out to Jake and everyone who played a part in allowing us to go on to Camp Ripley this year, everyone who played a part in working at camp to allow us to come in there and enjoy what is all out there on that landscape. It is absolutely amazing to experience everything out there. And one thing we did forget to mention, if you guys go to the iSportsman's webpage, if you Google iSportsman and then Camp Ripley, it has to be the Camp Ripley because I think there's multiple iSportsman web pages for different installations. But the iSportsman's webpage, if you go on Camp Ripley, and you scroll down to alerts and news, you'll be able to scroll down all the way after that, and that'll give you the 2024 season summary. It's all the way down at the bottom. If you click on that, Jake has all the harvest information that camp has from 2024. So you're able to go on there and look at those numbers instead of trying to go back through the podcast here and figure out what those numbers are. So check that out. And along with that, I just want to make sure that I go through and thank everyone that partners with us and makes all of this happen, including you guys, the listeners, all our supporters out there, but also Arctic Shield, Domain Outdoor, J&R Outdoors, Skullcraft, The Fish Guide, Tacticam, and Fourth Arrow Camera Arms. And hey, if you guys are down in Florida right now, all right, if you're listening down in Florida, I know The Fish Guide is down there doing some guiding, so maybe give them a shout. Check them out on Facebook. or any other social media pages. I know he's getting a website going that looks phenomenal. But yeah, he's down there in Florida, so you guys want to do some fishing down in Florida, give Nick a shout. He'll be able to hook you up. But with that, you guys, once again, I appreciate you guys listening. Thanks to everyone over at Camp Ripley for allowing us to come in there. I hope you guys enjoyed the podcast. Hope you got some good information out of this. And yeah, thanks for listening. Appreciate it.